Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Football Kentron episode. We have a lot to cover, so this is Armin, of course. I think we just have to get to it. We were not expecting to hear to wake up yesterday, this weekend, last weekend, to the news of the Armenian National Team squad being announced. So that changed everything. We had so many things ready to talk about for you, and we still will because this is a an addiction, maybe, called Armenian football. And we can't give it up. So we will stick to the plan and add and mix things up a little bit. First and foremost, what we were gonna be talking about, and we still are, Urartu, Football Club Urartu does the double. Crazy, crazy, crazy team, crazy club. We love Urartu. Everyone at Football Kentron and most of our Armenian audience and non-Armenians actually learned to love this club. And I'll get into why later. But first, what? The what? What did Urartu do the double? Well, they started beating Chirac a few weeks ago, I think. I don't know. Can't remember when exactly. Challenge, do you have an idea when that was?
The
Chirac.
the it was a few weeks ago. Last month maybe.
Oh,
No,
Aman.
end of month somewhere there. Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. So they. Oh, yeah. That was the cup final a few weeks ago. Can't remember the
Yeah,
date.
I
2-1.
think it was like three. Yeah.
Okay. First piece of silverware, first of the two, the double, with the final, 2-1 against the biggest team from inland Armenia, outside of Yerevan, the capital. Shirak, Gyumri were in control, weren't a little bit dominant on the score sheet at least. They did end up receiving a red card in the second half, and that was capitalized by Football Kentron future star Karen Melkonian with a phenomenal volley that made it a win for the Lions. The Lions being Urartu, for those who are not familiar with the club. It was insane. The goal, the cup winning goal, volley, crazy volley, is on our reels and Instagram. Great job by Challenge making the crop and the edit and posting it out on there. Make sure to check it out because it's really crazy. It comes to show how spot on our Football Kentron future stars picks are. Because even though Garen had a few injuries throughout his career, he is injury prone. Even then, he is kind of living up to part of his potential. He's still young. He will play European playoffs with Urartu, so he still has a lot of career ahead of him. But what made it a double for Urartu, this past Friday, the club sealed their second piece of silverware this season, the Armenian Premier League, the special one, the league. It was a massive game. It was the end game, as rivals Punic, city rivals Punic labeled it. The
Good touch
end
on
game,
that. Yeah.
the Battle of Yerevan. I was gonna get into that one too. A lot of nicknames going around, and I would say the game lived up to the hype. I mean, both teams had to win. It was a must-win for both. If they wanted to, have hopes for the trophy. For Urartu, it was more than hopes, as it ended up being. So they sealed the title. Punic wanted to take it to the final match day to win, but couldn't. It was 0-0, and on stoppage time, Arasus Bilis with a crazy free kick. One thing I didn't like about Urartu lineup on that day was that it kind of betrayed everything that led us, that led them. I'm sorry, I'm putting myself in character. Led them there. They only had like two or three Armenians in the starting lineup, and that wasn't what got them there. So 0-0 had to sub in some Armenians, including my personal favorite Armenian player of all time, Arasus Bilis, who assisted with a magnificent half pitch, like from the middle of the pitch.
Yeah.
Free kick. It was like, I don't know.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was destined for Tsimbaluk's head. That slotted it away for the win on stoppage time. Crazy. Everyone went crazy, lost their minds as they should. Urartu is back winning the APL after I think it was 8 years. Well deserved. I love this club. I know we all do, and I'm gonna go with you on a big challenge because you have been at the like at the
Tour,
club
let's
and
say. I went for a tour.
to the facilities. It was
hmm
beautiful.
hmm
But we're talking about the why. Now let's get about the what. Now let's get to the why. Why should you love Urartu as we do? First and foremost, it's an academy-based club. They have a club philosophy, very clear club philosophy that they try to promote through a lot, of course, focus a lot first and foremost in their academy, raising talent, um, teaching them things about life and not just football, that kind of thing. About how you can learn stuff from life in football and vice versa. So, and then from there, they try to promote as many academy grown and raised players to their senior squad. And that's how they got most of their wins this season. Uh, so we have to love and respect that so much. It's so important. So again, it is an Armenian and youth based squad. The senior team of theirs, the first team, captained by a an amazing left back that was supposed to go play the Ukrainian Premier League when he was 22 years old 2 years ago, right before the whole thing happened out there. It was sad, and from our point of view, it was sadder to see Gito come back. Uh, but he is still relatively young as well, 24 years old, and captaining a team into the league and now European playoffs. Uh, and he's a great left back. Called up to the national team. Look up to him. Look out to him. For him. Their leader, as we mentioned on the pitch, is Arasus Bilis, former Ajax champion of Eredivisie in Holland. Um, Trotter played all over the Europe. Had a crazy injury that halted his career from basically being the best Armenian player in history. But he is the leader on the pitch, even though he plays a handful of minutes because of his injury. Standout performance from Eric Piloyan, uh, and a defender that's so versatile and shown against Punic and showed everyone what he's made of. Can play center back, can play fullback. It's crazy. Iwu, Iwu, learning to love Armenia, the Nigerian-born Armenian national team player.
And the fans loving him as well. He's pretty good.
Exactly.
He showed many important chances, important movements, important actions in the game. There was some point where he got the ball and that he made like a one-timed pass or something. Like it was really nice to watch. It was aesthetic in a sense. So a quality player in the national team, he's called up, which we'll get to that later.
Yeah. And he gives his all. He loves the country, and that speaks of Urartu's philosophy too.
Exactly. Yep. Well deserved.
Yeah, I was actually personal story here. I was out with a couple of friends yesterday and non-Armenian, and they told me your love for your culture is contagious, and I think that's what Urartu is doing, and that's beautiful to see, man. As we said, Football Kentron future star Karen Melkonian, one of several Urartu Football Kentron future stars. But yeah, that's the thing. They give us so much young talent. A big PR public relations signing in Yaya Sanogo, former Ajax and Arsenal to Crystal Palace. A bit of a meme, but it's a big name. they have so much going on. They have so many reasons to believe they can make it all the way into European group stages. But before we jump into that, guys, any thoughts on Urartu doing the double challenge?
Like I said before, well deserved. Very interesting Premier League race, even though there's one match day left. It was, generally speaking, the whole APL was awesome. Urartu did a good job. They had two good teams running after them, chasing them. Ararat Armenia and Punic, trying to take them down, but they showed resilience. They showed what they can do, and with the squad that they have, they can go forward and they can create more. Definitely, they can create more.
Yeah, we believe in them a lot. Aram, your highlights. What are your highlights on Urartu?
I think what Urartu did this season is it's impressive. I think that any team that completes a domestic double should be, viewed as a strong team, and Urartu did so, albeit with Punic right on their backs the entire season. They had a little bit of a head start, a little bit of a help, I would say, because Punic was playing in the Conference League early on in the season. Their results weren't looking that good, but they kept consistent throughout the whole season. And of course, that match in the penultimate day of the season, they defeated Punic, and Punic looked very flat that day, and Urartu just looked really good. They looked very solid. They looked very healthy. They were very energetic, and they were shutting down Punic's wings, which ultimately broke down their game plan. And they're well-deserved champions. It's, I would say, a little bit easier to win the cup than it is to win the league. And this season we saw a very, very strong Armenian Premier League. And we say this every year, but this year it just keeps on improving with Urartu, Punic, and Ararat Armenia all in the 70-something points to end off the season. And it's just a testament to how much Armenian football is growing right now. But as for Urartu, I think, I doubted Dimitri Gunko's abilities, but he proved me wrong. He's been doing a really, really good job with them. Of course, they develop a lot of good young Armenian talent, and we have several national team players that come from this Urartu side, including Iwu, who was great in his debut against Turkey and played very well in the match against Cyprus. So at this point, we're just kind of looking forward to the European competition aspect. So winning the league feels like just the start for this Urartu side.
Yes. What a team, Urartu. We love you guys. Well, Charents, look, before asking you about the facilities, let us see how things stand and how things look for Armenian clubs in the upcoming European preseason club competition preseason.
Oh yeah, because a big month.
Exactly, Urartu made it to Champions League playoff or not.
First round, right? First round, yeah. First round.
Yeah, first qualifying round, and we have in Conference League Punic, Ararat Armenia, and Alashkert.
We don't know the exact rounds, honestly. We're gonna get too confused with that. But it's like first and second rounds and all that. It's not group stage directly because of coefficiency. Anyway, the important thing is 4 Armenian teams in Europe next month.
As every season. So there's a lot of football coming up for everyone. Look out for that. Urartu has a bit of a tough draw. We'll see exactly which team they get. On regards to Punic, I think they can make it all the way again. Alashkert, I trust them. I know Adam does as well. The big question mark would be Ararat Armenia. They have an amazing squad. Like, they have so much talent, and they haven't lived up to that. They keep getting cold feet. Last season, they lost to a good Estonian team, but they shouldn't have. I think it was Paide, and they
I think so, yeah.
they may get them again because they are one of the possible opponents.
They
I don't
are,
know.
yeah.
I don't know. We'll see when the draws come. Before we continue.
And a small note on Arad Armenia, they're probably they're probably switching to Vartan Minasyan as manager. So there's that change in management.
Vartan Spertsyan is leaving, and another Vartan is coming, Minasyan.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, one of the best national team coaches in our short history. We'll see how that pays off for them. But how do you think, you haven't been there in person, seeing the facilities and watching them work firsthand? What do you think about their chances in Europe for Urartu challenge?
Doable.
And the facilities, of course.
Doable. Doable as in they can progress through group stage? Yes, they can. That's doable. Obviously, Champions League is the highest here. That's something else. But of course, nothing is impossible. Europa League, it's a possibility. Munich was close, very close, did not go through, but they went to Conference League. Conference League now, like we said before many times, and for sure you've heard it from other people as well, in general in terms of football, small countries like us, I mean small in terms of coefficiency and points and level, it's useful. So Conference League, if Europa League, if Urartu can go to Europa Conference League group stages, that would be great, and we would have Punic them there as well. That would be brilliant. That would be amazing. So I do fancy Urartu chances. I do fancy the others as well. Punic, I do fancy them as well, just like you, Armin. So let's see how it goes.
Yes. It's gonna be an exciting time. Aram, what are your thoughts on Armenian clubs in the upcoming European pre-season to make Continental Cups group stages?
It's gonna be tough, I think. My initial analysis is, or my initial thoughts on this is that Urartu is going to have a little bit more of a difficult time in the Champions League than we would have hoped for, and I think that comes down to the fact that they aren't seeded. And interestingly enough, Punic, Arada Armenia, and Alashkert, two of the three have competed in the group stages. Arada Armenia, of course, made the playoffs of the Europa League twice before the Conference League was a thing, so they have some coefficient points as well. All three of those are seeded clubs versus Urartu, who hasn't really gotten past like the first or second round of qualifications, is not going to be seeded. So that means there's a list of some pretty good clubs that they can play in, and some that we would want to avoid. Of course, we want to avoid the clubs that Armenian players are on, like Slovan Bratislava, because Tigran Barsegan plays there, and Astana, because we have Kamo Hovanesyan and Varasad Haroyan who play there. And there are teams like Ferencvaros and Zalgiris and HJK Helsinki who we would want to avoid. But I think if we end up playing the Slovenian club Olympia, or the New Saints from Wales, or Shamrock Rovers, or Flora, or Mostar, I think it's doable. And as we mentioned before in the previous season, it's still applicable this season. Urartu need to get past the first round in order to be guaranteed Conference League playoffs. That's because there is no second round Europa League qualifiers. So that means it is going to be a must win, because if they do not, they drop down to the Conference League second round, which dramatically lowers their chances in order to qualify for Europe. Looking over at the Europa Conference League side, there are a number of unseeded teams that I think these three clubs can probably beat. I have the least faith in Alashkert out of all of them, or maybe actually Arada Armenia. Alashkert can grind out a result, but Arada Armenia have just been flops in European competition recently. I think Punic can very possibly make it to the Conference League again, but but it's going to take a little bit of luck in the draw. I think Punic is definitely a Conference League group stage level side, and so is Urartu. And as always, we kind of just need to have a luck of the draw situation. But I'm confident. I think if Urartu come in sharp, they can definitely make the Conference League. And I also back Punic if there's a good draw. The other two, not so much.
Yes, a lot of football, and Urartu will get Champions League qualifiers. So we stick to Champions League, but to this season now that hasn't yet finished. And funnily enough, for the first time, we have an Armenian National Team player in the UEFA Champions League final. We love Henrik Mkhitaryan. We have our mixed feelings. I personally, and I know that half Armenian National Team football fans that try to be objective for the sake of the national team know that despite Heno being, of course, I'm referring to Henrik Mkhitaryan to those who don't know, despite he being the by far unanimously, objectively Armenian player that has achieved the most, both at national team in terms of stats at least, and at club level, and to which we're getting to again. He's not performed well at the national team for the last 6 years of his international career. But even then, we love him because we know his character. We love him because he put us on the map. He represents every time he gets, and and even then, he knew when to step aside from the national team and that speaks of grace. And he's still shining in his personal career, on the personal front, the club level. He led, or one of the guys that led Inter Milan, the best club in Italy, might I remind you, to the Champions League final. It's crazy. Charents, run us through that. Everything on Heno and the Champions League.
Oh, yes. Probably the biggest night of his career. So, just small facts about the Champions League, which most of you know. It's on Saturday. From this recording, it's in 6 days and less. 10th of June, 11 Yerevan time, 11 o'clock. It is going to be in Istanbul. Heno is on the side of the Italians, Inter Milan, who have gone through after beating AC Milan in the semi-finals. They beat them with Heno scoring in the first leg. Unfortunately, the second leg he got injured, but his team still made it through. On the other side, there's Manchester City, one of the biggest clubs in England and in the world right now, winning Premier League title, FA Cup as well yesterday from this recording. So they're giants against them. However, our focus is on Henrik Mkhitaryan, of course. So, a record. He's the first player and Armenian player to have reached the final in all of the 3 European club competitions, which means Champions League, Europa League, Conference League. He became the first Armenian player to score in the semi-finals of the Champions League, as we said before, in the first leg. And also, side note about his injury, he's going to be okay. He's recovering. He's very likely going to be ready for Saturday very, very soon. Another side fact, Heno's record in the European club competition finals. He's been in the 2016-17 Europa League final against Ajax for Manchester United, where he won it and also scored. Then, in 2018-19, he went through to the finals of the Europa League for Arsenal. However, he was unable to travel as it was held in Baku because of the issues with Azerbaijan, the political issues with Armenia. So, unfortunately, Arsenal lost the final. Him being there maybe would have made a difference, really. And the final part is last season, 2021, 22 season, Conference League final against Feyenoord for Roma, where he won it. Therefore, now he comes to the Champions League final. Also, another small side fact: he got injured before halftime in the final last season, so unfortunately he didn't get to play the whole game. However, he was by his club's side. He was there supporting them, and he earned another trophy. So
Yes.
let's see for the next one. We wish.
Don't knock on wood.
Yeah, I don't want to jinx it. Yeah, please don't.
Rani. Let us just wish him the best. We want him to win. We are not gonna, let me knock on wood. Okay, that got through. You mentioned injuries, and it's crazy how a physical beast, because he is what I call a physical beast of a player. And he's been getting injured often over the last 2 years, at least 3 years maybe, and it comes with age, and it's sad. It would be a great way to cap off his career and call it a career basically. Hopefully he can also travel to Armenia and play the APL a few years too. But time is running too for everyone. He is one of our older players, and it's marking the end of an era. And I personally am glad that we're here to appreciate it. But enough about that end of the productivity years for footballers. Let us focus on the future too, and youngsters and players up and coming and making their first rounds into top leagues. We have one fact. Look, I'm gonna let Adam take the wheel. Adam, take the wheel here and run us through Grant Leon Ranos. I think Yeranosian. For those who don't know his real last name, Yeranosian, signing for Borussia Mönchengladbach, and the rumors on Eduard Spertsyan, everything on those two amazing stars. I would say the guys that will take Armenian National Team to the next level over the next decade.
Well, where to start? Grant Leon Ranos, or Hrant, is a academy product of my favorite club, FC Bayern Munich, and I was really, really excited. I think excited may be too much of a mild word. When he made his debut for the national team against Cyprus and scored a brace, I had never felt so validated in my brief career in speaking about Armenian football. I think this is a guy that not only have I hyped up dramatically, but I think has seemingly come out of nowhere for a lot of Armenians. But if you've been following us for the past near 3 years now, we've talked extensively about him. He's a Football Kentron future star, and he is gonna do really, really big things. And it's just amazing that he's so early on in his career. So Hrant signed for Borussia Mönchengladbach, which is a winning club in Germany. They're 5 times German champions, 2 times UEFA Cup winners, and they usually do participate in European competition. This past season in the Bundesliga, they finished 10th because they have somewhat of an aging squad that's led to some decline in performance, and they're looking to pivot into a youth emphasis, a revamp, so to speak. With Marcus Thuram's departure, Hrant is going to be one of the key players and will likely be one of a couple strikers that they sign in this summer transfer window. He came as a free agent, of course, as his contract with Bayern expires at the end of June. And he's going to be getting a lot of chances. I think he will start probably in the preseason, and it's up to him in order to take those opportunities and win his place in the first team. When he signed, the club emphasized how they liked that he can play anywhere in the front line, but they especially like him for the center forward position. And Gladbach don't have any Europe next season, so they'll only be playing on two fronts, the Bundesliga and the DFB Pokal, the German Cup. And I think in terms of the national team, I'm really, really excited to see him play against Wales and Latvia, because how could you drop a player like that after he scores 2 goals on his debut? Moving on to Eduard Spertsyan, who's been linked to a number of clubs, including Borussia Mönchengladbach, but also AC Milan, the Champions League semifinal side, Olympique Marseille, Fiorentina, and some unnamed clubs also in Germany and Spain. Real Madrid had been thrown out there, potentially throwing out feelers. So needless to say, he is a very, very wanted man. Milan seemed to be getting some cold feet, having signed some other players, while Olympique Marseille have stepped up their efforts in pursuing Eduard Spertsyan. The list of teams interested in him is very, very long, and especially being named the best midfielder in the Russian Premier League. I think he also came runners-up in the Player of the Year vote. I'm sure he's going to become Krasnodar Player of the Year. And we have these matches coming up in June against Wales and Latvia. I'm sure especially the first match in Wales, in Cardiff, there's going to be a lot of eyes on him. So the interest is only going to grow. But prior to all that, prior to him joining the national team, he still has the opportunity to bring a trophy, the first ever trophy, to Krasnodar, because he kind of carried the team on his back this whole season with, I think, 14 goals and 14 assists in 34 matches. And now he has a cup final against CSK in Moscow, which if you can bring that home, I think it'll be the perfect sending off for Eduard Spertsyan. And these two are going to be leading the national team for the next decade, for sure. I think Spertsyan has already started having this sort of leadership role in the midfield and making things work, and him and Hrant seem to already have this good partnership that they've built, and of course they're two, I would say, of all the players in our team, they're the two players with world-class quality, and they will likely be world-class throughout their career. And I think it's a very, very exciting time, because I think these two can pave the way, unlike previous Armenian players. I think, as you were discussing, Henrik Mkhitaryan, we thought his breakthrough would lead to more breakthroughs of other young Armenian players in the top 5 leagues, and it never really panned out that way. But I think with these two, I think that's definitely going to be the case.
Yes, Grant Leon Ranos, or Yeranosian, for those who are obsessed with proper names and proper pronunciation and stuff. That's the way you say it. And Eduard Spertsyan, the GOAT, the king, the everything, him, the one and true, the one and only, the word of the Lord. Those players are going to be leading the national team. Let's talk national team then. As we mentioned at the beginning of the show, the Armenian national team squad list has been announced, to everyone's surprise, this last weekend, the weekend before the Champions League final, which honestly we didn't expect because of over a year. The FFA has been releasing the squad list like around 1 week, barely 1 week before or ahead of the national team windows and the international break and whatnot. This time, it's an interesting turn to the tables. Coach Alexander Petrakov announced an interesting list, which is composed by the following players. At goal, 3 goalkeepers in Arsen Beglarian, Ognjen Chancharevich, and Stanislav Buchnev. Defense. The captain, Varas Tataroyan, Gamo Hovannesyan, Georgi Harutyunyan, Nair Tiknesian, Andre Chalishir, Shirair Markarian, Eric Piloyan, David Davidian, Sergei Muradian, Taron Voskanyan, and Stiopa Mkirchyan. I'm going to start saying the clubs for the players in the midfield. I should have done it earlier, but meh, you can look it up online. And if you don't like it, DM us. I don't care.
We'll help you.
The star, the star of everything, leading the team in midfield, Eduard Spertsyan, Krasnodar in Russia, but not for long. Khoren Bayramyan, the experience from Rostov in Russia as well, the derby of Krasnodar. Tigran Parsekian, newly crowned twice champion in Slovan Bratislava, the Slovak Giants, Slovakia baby. Vahan Bechakchian, Pogon Stettin in Poland. Jirai Shaoyan, CSKA Sofia in Bulgaria, as of now still fighting for the title. Lucas Zelarayan, Columbus Crew, MLS USA. I felt like an NFL player with that. Artak Tasyan, Punic Yerevan, Armenia. Hovannes Harutyunyan, Punic Yerevan, Armenia. Uguchuku Ivu, as we said, football club Urartu, champions of Armenia. Uvei Marangulo, Alaskert, Yerevan, Armenia. Artur Seropian, still Bakama, Yerevan, Armenia. And in attack, 3 diasporans from Germany, Grant Leon Ranos, Borussia Mönchengladbach, from my Argentina, Norberto Briasco, Valencia, my home, Boca Juniors, Buenos Aires. And lastly, Alexander Petrakov's compatriot in a way, Artur Miranyan, born in Ukraine, currently at Alashkert Yerevan, Armenia. Interesting squad. My first takeaway, I have to get into that. The goalkeepers are, and I know everyone agrees, so I'm gonna just say it plainly. Roman Berezovsky, bro, you were such a good player. We love you because of who you were as a player and a goalkeeper. Legend.
But in terms of decisions, man, nah. Let me make decisions, please.
You're not cut out for coaching, bro. Honestly, we love you.
We respect
down.
you.
It's like, you know the phrase, bro, leave a hero before you become a villain, something like that. Berezovsky is there. Like, oh my God, the decisions he's making. Like, even for the 2 mere games he coached as a head coach for the national team last semester, it was already bad. And we knew it was gonna be bad because he was the goalkeeping coach for Joaquin Caparrós as well, and his decisions were awful as well. And again, I don't know why the FFA kept him around. I love the guy, but bro, step down, man. As long as Beglarian plays both games, I guess worst, like least of all evils. I don't know. My thoughts on the overall team, I like it. The field players are spot on mostly. I'm really, really sad, and I also know I'm jumping like ahead of myself because you all want to pitch in, and you will all probably add this at some point. But I want to highlight, it's a shame we haven't gotten Mark Gevorkian yet. It would have been crazy. I don't know. The one thing I didn't like about the field players, though, unanimously, like hands down, didn't like Ube Marangulo, bro. He's not a good player. We love him, and he has a sick long range shot. Like no argument there. But he's not his positioning, which is the most important trait for a defensive midfielder. His positioning is awful.
I want to add something to that as well. Not regarding his skills, but regarding his time. For the past month, he has had an injury, so he wasn't playing for the past month. I think like last week he started playing. So you cannot say that he's on form or anything like that.
Exactly. No, he's also old. Like he's 31, I think. Doesn't make any sense
No,
that
it
call
doesn't.
up.
No, no.
Like
You have
from
Garen
any
Muradyan you can call up. You have Narek Aghasaryan. You,
role. Like
I
you
mean,
have several players, bro. Rudik Mukachan. I don't know. Even I don't know, bro. I don't want to like say names that might be discussed. Pavel Gorilov that has the whole citizenship issue still. Gevorg Najarian that's a little bit out of form, but still
yeah,
he would be way better even out of form. Not to mention almost like 80 years younger, potential. Like from any point of view, it doesn't make sense.
yes,
And
exactly.
especially going back to his experience at the national team, he has had almost double-digit games for us, and he has scored twice. Fair point to him, but he cost us way more goals than the ones he contributed to. He His awful marking left us so exposed so many times. And from a tactical point of view, this if this national team represents all of us, then we should all have a say. He makes us feel and be vulnerable on the pitch, and we don't want that. So same with the goalkeeping situation. As long as he doesn't play and it's just evil playing the full 180 again, I guess it's gonna be okay. But then again, you cannot rely on that. Uh, Other than that, the field players are spot on. What do you think? Run me through your thoughts on the national team as a whole challenge.
Overall, it's looking fine. I have an issue like you with the goalkeepers. Uh, I didn't understand that how I was like we were all told that Arman Nersesyan is going to have a role in the for the future, but I don't see him here. Even though even if he's not going to play, might as well just call him up and get experience surrounded with different talented players. Uh, in terms of defenders, I was actually expecting Rubasarin to get another chance. Maybe we would see him, but okay, I'm still happy for whatever we've got. Obviously, one or two names I have an issue with, but overall it's good. The same with the midfield. You mentioned the player there. We don't need to say his name again. Um, yeah, Nicolas Rossi. We thought maybe he would actually join. Didn't happen. Okay, there's another chance. We'll get it. The same with the other player you mentioned, Mark.
Mark.
It's all good. Now, there's still time, but that'll do.
See,
It will come in time.
yeah, you mentioned two interesting names. Before I get to that, yeah, I even forgot. You mentioned defense. I even forgot about the two defenders that for somehow have like many caps under their belt. We're not gonna name names anymore. We know exactly who they are, and they are just gonna be there. They're the players that they're the friend that you can't stand, but they're always around
Where are you
somehow.
going with this?
Uh, yeah, they're just there, and you can't tell them uh to f off somehow because they don't care. They will come back. Those two guys in defense, we're not gonna name their names. You know who you are. Step aside too. Let us play, goddammit. Uh, but you mentioned two interesting names. Mark, as I mentioned before, and Nico Rossi.
Mm,
The interesting situation about these two cases, we actually tweeted about Mark reposting the FFA. So that is basically an expression of intent that he is in talks with the FFA officially and that he has agreed to represent us. So at this point, and we are so excited for this, despite not being it this time. We know for a fact that he will represent Armenia, and it's not a matter of if anymore; it's a matter of when. Which is why I was expecting to see him, Mark Kevorkian in this case, now, just because he's already implicitly agreed by reposting the FFA. Like, he's not just under the radar; he's part of the system by now. Great news, great breakthrough for the FFA. It would have been even better if it materialized right away, but eventually, I don't know when. Hopefully, he will pick up his club career too. He still has the end of the season at FC Liefering. We'll see if he gets promoted this season to Salzburg's first team or the next season. But in any case, I think he's ready to at least be second string right back and fight for first string. But yeah, he's already there for us. With Nico, however, he was supposed to represent us. He was supposed to represent the under 20, under 19, under 19, under 21, something youth team. And then COVID hit. As we mentioned on our Football Kentron Future Stars episode, go listen to it. Check it out for more Armenian talent. Yes. And then the rumors started spreading in April that he was going to be joining for this window. This one window now, the one we're talking about. And he ended up not being called. I fear he may have been called and we don't know. And he may have rejected the call. If that's the case, which, educated guess and context and all, it's very likely it would be very sad for us. Luckily, we have plenty of wingers. Like, we're at a surplus in that one position historically, so it's not a huge miss. But he's one of the ones that's, the most ready to fight at the level we're trying to play at, So I worry that might be the case. Aram, run us through your thoughts on the Armenian National Team squad list.
My thoughts on the Armenia National Team squad list. How much time do we have? I think that's the bigger question here. I think I'll take it a section at a time because it's a lot easier to digest. Starting with the goalkeepers, Chancerovic, I still can't pronounce his name. I don't think he's the savior that people are looking for. Like you said, he's in his 30s. He's an APL level player in goal, which is essentially the same as all of the other players that we have. I think Arsen Beglarian had a really good showing against Turkey, and I think Bushnev should be nowhere near the squad. He's such a liability at the back, and I really, really hate the fact that Roman Berezovsky keeps placing him on this list. I genuinely believe at this point we need a new goalkeeping coach because we need someone that's willing to take a look elsewhere. And I don't know where that solution is going to come. It doesn't seem like there's going to be a solution anytime soon. We had some prospects elsewhere, but it just didn't seem like they really panned out. So unfortunately, I think Arsen Beglarian should be the first one. I think he's good enough, especially to play against a team like Latvia, and I do think he can get the job done against Wales. I just hope that Petrikov recognizes that, and I think he does. I think he wanted to play Bushnev in the friendly match against Cyprus, and I do think Beglarian will probably start at least against Latvia, or maybe he'll start against Wales, and Chancerovic will start against Latvia. That's probably likely what's going to happen. As for the defensive call-ups, I think this is the first time I've ever looked at it and gone, wow, okay, this is actually a pretty good set of players. We have, of course, the veterans here in Haroyan and Andre Chalisier. both, of course, can get the job done. Both are very, very experienced, but both need to be partnered with a little bit more energy. We have Georgi Harutyunyan, who has already, since his national team debut, broke into the Krasnodar first team, and rumors are he's going to be playing in the cup final that's coming up this weekend with Eduard Spertsyan. And then we also have Eric Piloyan, who in that last game against Punic for Urartu was sensational. I mean, he had these really, really good touches to get away from pressure, away from the pressure from the midfield. He was so calm and collective on the ball. I actually really, really like the fact that he got called up, and I think a lot of us were thinking Ghazarian would get called up, but the reality of the situation is Piloyan has dethroned Ghazarian for that starting spot in Urartu, and he definitely deserves to be here. And elsewhere, Sergei Muradian, Zenit St. Petersburg Academy product, coming in. Another very, very good young player that's probably going to get some minutes against Latvia, maybe, or just being in the team will do him some good. And then we have Stiopa Makurchan, who, of course, super aggressive central defender. And then we have Daron Voskanyan, who is coming back from an injury, who's just, no matter what, this guy's going to be present on the national team list. And at this point, you just have to learn to accept it. But calling up that many central defenders tells me that we are not going to shy away from playing three at the back. This 3-4-3 or 3-5-2 we're going to be putting out there. It seems to me as though Georgi Harutyunyan has probably cemented his place in the starting spot and probably has Varzdal Haroyan. So it just comes to how he wants to approach playing against Wales, if he wants to play more defensive or what that style is going to be like. But I think we can see two completely different back lines in both the games, which I'm totally not against. You know, I wouldn't mind seeing Haroyan, Harutyunyan, and someone like Stiopa Mukarchan playing the first game, and then in the second game, bring in Andrzej Chasir, Piloyan, and Daron Voskanyan, because realistically it's Latvia and they should be able to play against that level. For fullbacks, Kamo Hovhannisyan and David Davidian are the right back calls, which, of course, like we said, I don't mind Kamo playing if he's playing right wing back. Left wing back is just not his position, and thank God Nair Tiknizyan exists, because he has been a revelation and he has been scoring like crazy for Lokomotiv Moscow. I think he has something like 4 goals and 2 assists in the last 7 games for his club side. And he's also deputized by Jiran Margarian, who just captained Urartu in the league. So you can expect to see solid rotation there. And on the right side, like I said, Kamo will probably get the nod against Wales, and that's fine. And then against Latvia, David Davidian's going to come in and just be super offensive. So 2 really, really solid potential backlines here that can both get the job done. The stronger one should start against Wales, and the weaker one, quote unquote, can still very much get that job done against Latvia, and we can see the solid rotation and this competition for spaces. So I think for the first time, I'm looking at these defensive call-ups and going, I'm actually really happy with it. The midfield, of course, we have Spertsyan, who will probably start both games, as he should. He should be playing every minute he possibly can for Armenia. And then we have Lucas Zelrayan, who also plays in a similar role, but I think Petrikov needs to start to find a way to play both these guys together. I think it's very, very crucial that he figures this out, because I think that's going to be the keys to us winning here. Elsewhere, other key players here, Hovhannes Harutyunyan from Punic getting the nod. I'm not sure why he wasn't called up last time. He's in now. Great impact sub that can come on, whether it is against Wales or against Latvia. Of course, we have Iwu as the defensive midfield option, and for some reason, Wobemar Bangulo is coming in. He's not a high-quality player, but against lower quality opposition, he does very well, and he has a really, really good knack for goal. And Artur Seropian is coming in, great young winger. We have the experienced Artak Dasyanin, who picked up an injury in Punic's last game, so I don't know how healthy and fit he's going to be. And then for depth purposes and experience, again, we have Khorem Bayramyan and Tigran Barselian, who I don't want these two to start. I'd rather they come in as impact subs. And then we have Vahan Bichakjan, who was slowly starting to pick up form by the end of the season. And Giras Sharoyan, who, in my eyes, has been probably the most disappointing player of this season. I think his move to CSK Sofia, we were hoping, he would bear some fruit, but he hasn't scored or assisted, and it's been really, really rough to watch. And I think he just needs to have that breakthrough, and he just hasn't had it yet. But again, really like this midfield calls up. I wouldn't personally call up Angulo or Bayramian. I think they're Bayramian was good for what he did. I just think he's not that impact sub that you're looking for, and I think, but hopefully Petrikov realized that in the game against Turkey. He's not the player that you're going to bring in to make that change. That's going to be someone like Giray Sharoyan or Vahan Bichakjian or Tigran Barsegan. Those are the players that you want to come off the bench because they're good wingers that can change the game. That will take players head on, and that's what you need if you're trailing. But hopefully we don't trail. Hopefully they can come on and wrap the game up. And then up top we have Grant Leon Ranos, of course, Norberto Briasco-Balakian, and Artur Miranian. No Sako this time around. He has a broken toe, I believe, so he missed the last few games for FC Köln. So Artur Miranian comes in, a player that I personally like I like a lot. He's a great APL player, has that kind of Ukrainian connection with Petrikov. Will probably come on if the game is calling for a target man, but I do think Balakian has shown, especially in that match against Turkey, his hold-up play is superb, and I think if we are going to be playing a strong counterattack, we're going to need someone like him up top. And but that's where more of these conundrums come, because you have Grant Leon Ranos, who is the first striker to score for the national team in like 4 years or something insane like that. So how do you bench someone who just came on and scored a brace on their debut? Newsflash, you don't bench them. So overall, I think I'm very optimistic. I would say very optimistic with this, but I'm looking forward to dissecting our opposition in our next episode as we look to preview the games against Wales and Latvia.
It's almost an hour of episode. We have discussed everything we wanted to discuss, even with Alexander Petrakov announcing the national team squad list, which was unexpected, as mentioned. But we will get more in depth on the national team and the opposition. We are playing Wales and Latvia next. We are playing Wales in Cardiff, I think it will be, on that's the Friday the 16th.
Correct.
We'll tell
yeah.
Time exactly, Chance?
The time will be 10:45 Yerevan time.
Nice. And then after the weekend, we play Latvia at home in beautiful Yerevan on Monday the 19th. At what time, Yerevan, Chance?
I believe 8. No. Yeah. So 10:45 is Wales. 8 o'clock is Yerevan. So if you can go to the game, just do it.
Yes. Shout out to my beautiful assistant, Chance. Now, for real, a lot of football coming up. The national team window coming up. We are super excited about that. Even though it's not perfect, it's the Armenian National Team, but I would say it's more wins than losses. This so far this year, especially when it comes to call-ups and stuff. A lot of potential and a lot of young players for the future. So yeah, as we mentioned, we will be releasing most likely another episode with the Champions League final results and Henrik Mkhitaryan featuring, hopefully, and winning. I don't know. We'll see. And with more in-depth analysis about everything Armenian National Team window next weekend, as we mentioned. And a little side note about non-football Armenians in other sports, Armenians in tennis. We have, I have to mention this, Armenians in Roland Garros tennis Paris tournament. Karen Khachanov and Elina Avanesian shining and going through round of 32, round of 16, something like that. It's great, a great achievement. I don't like the sport, but can't argue with the importance of this. And I do like the UFC. One day after Armenia plays Wales, visits Wales, on Saturday the 17th, we have two Armenians fighting UFC night. I think it's going to be one preliminary round and one main card. So a lot of Armenian entertainment for that whole weekend. It's going to be beautiful to see. We don't get that too often. So let us just try to enjoy it while we can. And you in there listening to this, be on the lookout for our next episode coming real soon. As we mentioned,
Yes.
Thank you. Challenge, any final thoughts on what's to come? Although we will be really soon coming back.
Yeah, well, next 3 big months ahead. Have a happy June. Enjoy the football. Support the football. Support the Armenian National Team. Support Armenia. Support our players. Support. Just fully support the tricolor. And
support Armenia and Armenians. That's
exactly.
Right.
Support both. Support whatever is red, blue, red. Red, blue. Oh my God, what am I saying?
No.
Red, blue.
Soccer flashbacks.
The Football Kentron flashback. Oh no. Red, blue, and well, in Armenia we say Zirana Queen.
It's not the peach. It's not. No, it's not plum.
They say Zirana Queen. Yeah. So let's go on to victory. Let's go Tebiach Tanak, and let's see what we can get.
Adam, any quick thoughts before we are back? Literally, I think next week.
Nothing really much on my end. Just watch the game, support, and just recognize that we're in this little bit of a rebuilding phase right now. So don't get frustrated if we don't win. But like I said, I'm pretty confident, and hopefully things go our way. But we'll see.
Okay, yeah. Just going back to what Challenge said. Before going back to what Challenge said, thank you for listening to another episode of Football Kentron. See you next week. And until then, what do we say, Challenge?
Well, on to victory. Tebiach Tanak.
Ayo.